Welcome back. We're going to take a look at trig identities and formulas, rules, what have you, in a little bit more detail today. I want to drive home that we can't really look at all of the identities that are possible. So you really do need to go to the memorize sheet / study guide and go through these and get really used to them because I can't touch on all of them, obviously. If I did have to say what to prioritize, I would say reciprocals, Pythagorean, cofunction, even odd, power reducing, and double angle are going to be the heaviest hit. So if you really do need to prioritize, it's just too much for you, then you can put the sum product, product to sum, half angle, on hold for now. But to really be set up well for this, you should know all of these and like the back of your hand. So let's take a look at a couple examples, and these are going to be simple. Right? We're not going to go into really difficult ones. I'm going to clarify that I'm not going to write theta or x or whatever over and over and over again. I'm just going to write the identity, or sorry, the trig operation, because I mean there's no point when we're proving stuff like this. So sine over cosine, or sorry, sine over cosecant plus cosine over secant equals 1. And again, I'm not going to write these over and over again if they're simplified on that side. I'm only going to write what we're actually working on. So I'm trying to prove that this side equals this side. I know that cosecant is 1 over sine and secant is 1 over cosine, so we can see where that gets us. Sine over 1 over 1 over sine, and cosine over 1 over 1 over cosine. So if you're confused about what's going on here, if we look at it like this, we could agree that sine is the same thing as sine over 1, and cosine is the same as cosine over 1. So if we were to flip this, and actually I'll make it the same thing as what's going on here, rather than actually changing them. Then sine over 1, and then I take the reciprocal down here, would wind up with that. And then when you deal with this, you bring the fraction to the top, flip it, and multiply. There's an academic way of understanding that too, but there's really no point in explaining it that way. Just bring it up, flip it, and multiply, and we'll get sine squared. So that's what's going to happen here. We're going to get sine squared plus cosine squared, and that is an identity that equals 1. So we are done. Let's clear our board and try a different one. So this next one, cosine plus sine tan is equal to secant. All right, heads up about tan and cotangent. And they use these a lot, and they're trying to get you to recognize this. The majority of the time, you are going to want to undo tangent and cotangent as soon as possible. So cosine plus sine times sine over cosine, because we just undid tangent, and that's broken down as much as it can be, so we're going to leave that alone for now. Now that we have this, let's try and get them over the same denominator. So we can multiply by cosine over cosine, because that just equals 1, so that's fine. Plus sine squared over cosine. And this will make it so that we can combine everything together because they'll be the same denominator. So cosine squared plus sine squared all over cosine. This, again, is an identity that equals 1. 1 over cosine. So I can't simplify it down any further than that. So let's see what our original thing was asking for. It was secant. Well, 1 over cosine is, so this works. Check. We prove that to be true. All right, to the next one. We have, let's see, let's look for one that's good. Oh, this one's quick. 1 minus cosine squared is equal to tan cosine sine. All right, so right off the bat, they're trying to check if you understand this identity. That is equal to sine squared. And then, like I said, they're normally trying to get you to break apart tangent or cotangent, whichever it is. So that's going to be sine over cosine times cosine sine. Obviously, those are going to cancel. And then we're just going to have sine times sine, which is sine squared, check. That all works out. So the main thing that they're testing here was if you understood this identity right here. And generally that's how it'll go. The harder the identities that they're working with, the shorter the problem will be. Right, and then for our last one, sine over 1 plus cosine plus 1 plus cosine, over sine equals to cosecant. All right, I'm not seeing how this could be really changed right now, so we're going to leave that alone. And over here, it looks like we can multiply by the other's denominator so that we can add these together. So let's do that. Sine over sine times sine over 1 plus cosine plus 1 plus cosine over 1 plus cosine times 1 plus cosine over sine. So by doing this, we will get the same denominator and we can create one term. That will end up being sine squared over sine times 1 plus cosine. And this one will end up being, sorry, I started writing at a little bit of an angle there. This one will end up being 1 plus cosine squared over 1 plus cosine sine. So, sorry about that. I didn't recognize I was writing at an angle. But we get sine squared, and they're over the same denominator, so we can create one term now. So that's going to be sine squared plus 1 plus cosine squared all over sine times 1 plus cosine. Okay, so in looking at this, I am not seeing much we can do with that as it is. So let's expand this right here and see what we can get there. Sine squared plus 1 plus 2 cosine plus cosine squared all over sine times 1 plus cosine. Okay, here's our identity. We've seen it almost every problem, if not every problem. That's going to equal 1. We add sine squared and cosine squared together, so we're going to get 1 plus 2 cosine all over sine times 1 plus cosine. Alright, from here we can add these two together, and I can already see it. They're going to have us factor out that 2 and cancel. Plus cosine. So let's do that. 2 times 1 plus cosine all over sine times 1 plus cosine, and those are gone. So this is going to end up equaling 2 over sine. I can't get it any further than that, so let's see what our original was. 2 cosecant. Okay. 1 over sine is equal to cosecant, so that means that this is equal to 2 cosecant. And we are done. So this is more or less how it should be. You need to get to a point where when an identity comes up, you just move, right? There shouldn't be a lot of thinking. You shouldn't have to sit there and say, oh, was tan cosine over sine or sine over cosine, which was it? Nothing like that. So you need to get to the point where these come naturally and come quickly. And that should do it for this video.